everyone, my name is Casio from the section BTLED IA 1B. For this video, we will discuss the theories of Erikson's psychosocial theory development. Erikson's psychosocial term is derived from the two source word, namely psychological, or the root psycho relating to the mind, brain, personality, and etc., and social, external relationship and environment, both at the heart of Erikson's theory. Occasionally, you'll see the term extended to psychosocial, in which bio refers to life, as in biological. Erikson's theory was largely influenced by Sigmund Freud, but Erikson extended the theory and incorporated cultural and social aspects into Freud's biological and sexual-oriented theory. So Erikson has 8 stages theory. It is tremendously powerful model. Stage 1, trust versus mistrust. Stage 2, autonomy versus shame and doubt. Stage 3, initiative versus guilt. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. Stage 5, ego, identity versus role, confusion. Stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. Stage 7, generativity versus stagnation. Stage 8, ego, integrity versus despair. Ways, trust versus mistrust. The first stage, infancy, is approximately the first year or year and a half life. The crisis is trust versus mistrust. The goal is to develop trust without completely eliminating the capacity for mistrust. If the primary caregivers, like the parents, can give the baby a sense of familiarity, consistency, and continuity, then the baby will develop the feeling that the world is a safe place to be, that people are reliable. Examples of these are if the care has been inconsistent, unpredictable, unreliable, cold, and or rejecting, then the infant may develop a sense of mistrust, suspicion, and anxiety. In this situation, the infant will not have confidence in the world around them or in their abilities to influence events. Stage 2, autonomy versus shame and doubt. The second stage is early childhood from about 18 months to 3 or 4 years old. The fast is to achieve a degree of autonomy while minimizing shame and doubt. If mom and dad or caregiver permits a child, now a toddler, to explore and manipulate his or her environment, the child will develop a sense of autonomy or independence. The parents should not discourage the child, but neither should they push. Examples of this are this stage occurs between the ages of 18 to around 2 to 3 years old. According to Erikson, children at this stage are focused on developing a great sense.
Stage 3, initiative versus guilt. Psychosocial crisis. Stage 3 is the early childhood stage from 3 or 4 to 5 or 6. The task is to learn initiative without so much guilt. Initiative means a positive response to the world's challenges, taking or responsibilities, learning new skills, feeling purposeful. But if children can imagine the future, if they can plan, then they can be responsible as well and guilty. A parent has the responsibility socially to encourage the child to grow up. You're not a baby anymore. But if this process is done so harshly and so abruptly, the child learns, then feel guilty about his or her feelings. The example of initiative versus guilt. For example, a child may choose the roles for themselves or other within a game. Then is the beginning of initiative. The guilt comes into play when children make mistakes while navigating this position. Industry versus inferiority. Psychosocial crisis. Stage 4 in the school age, stage when the child is from about 6 to 12. The task is to develop a capacity for industry while avoiding an excessive sense of inferiority. Example of industry versus inferiority. During the industry versus inferiority stage, children become capable of performing increasingly complex tasks. As a result, this strive to master new skills. Children who struggle to develop this sense of competence may emerge from this stage, this feeling for failure and inferiority.
Is a major stage of development where the child has to learn the roles he or she will occupy as an adult. Children from 12 to 18 years of age face this task.
As the adolescent stage begins, there are lots of questions that comes up in our mind, such as who am I and what do I want to do with my life. We tend to explore various rules and ideas, setting goals and attempt to discover our adult selves. Example, there was a 15-year-old girl named Chaya. She used to be a very obedient daughter. She dressed appropriately, got good grades, and generally did what her parents expected her to do. All in all, she was a good girl. But recently, things have changed. She started dressing differently. She isn't listening to her parents as much as anymore. Just last week, she told her mom that she wasn't going to become a doctor, like her parents want. In fact, she said that she might not even go to college. Chaya is in adolescence, or the period of life between childhood and adulthood. Like Chaya, many adolescents begin to change and rebel. We explore new ideas about ourselves and our place in the world. According to psychologist Erikson, that this exploration is part of a psychosocial crisis, or a developmental period when a person has to resolve a conflict in his or her own life. Based on the example, Chaya is displaying the adolescent psychosocial crisis that would either lead her to identity or knowing who she is and what she believes, or to role confusion, or not being sure of who she is or what she believes.
There are two parts of psychosocial. First is internal forces of the self. Based on the example, Chaya is exploring and experimenting with different aspects of herself. Second is external forces of the society. Chaya's parents and the rest of the society expect her to dress like and act like a girl. They pressure her to do certain things and be certain things.
I said earlier that we adolescents begin to explore different rules or ideas about ourselves. We may change our behavior or physical looks. We might change our minds about what we want to do with our lives. Back in my given example, if Chaya's parents and friends are supportive of her and allow some amount of experimentation with rules, Chaya will likely end up with a cohesive, full identity that expresses who she is. But if her parents and friends are not supportive of her, well then, Chaya will likely end up in a role confusion. She might not feel like she knows who she is in deep down, or she might go through life constantly playing the part that her parents or friends want her to play. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of fidelity. Fidelity includes being able to commit oneself to others on the basis of accepting others even when there may be ideological differences. Intimacy versus isolation. This stage takes place during young adult between the ages of approximately 19 to 40. The major conflict at this stage of life centers on forming intimate, loving relationship with other people. During this stage, we begin to share ourselves more intimately with others. We explore relationship leading towards longer-term commitments with someone other than a family member. According to Erikson, Success means to have healthy, fulfilling relationships. Failure means experiencing loneliness or isolation. Successful completion of this stage can result in happy relationships and a sense of commitment, safety, and care within a relationship. Avoiding intimacy, fearing commitment, and relationship can lead to isolation, loneliness, and sometimes depression. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of love.
Come on, smoking no gas, so long, ready to whack, come on. The sound of your career in my Batman, lick shot, boom, 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 bang. Put me on the track and I'ma really let them up. Feel it when I do it, I'ma do it when
Psychosocial. The seventh stage is that of middle adulthood. It is hard to pin a time to it, but I would include the period during which we are actively involved in raising children. For most people in our society, this would put in somewhere between the middle 20s and the late 50s. The task here is to cultivate the proper balance of gravity and stagnation. Gravity. Gravity is an extension of love into the future. It is a concern for the next generation and all future generation. Stagnation, on the other hand, is self-absorption, caring for no one. The stagnant person stops to be a productive member of society. Ego integrity versus despair. Ego integrity means coming to terms with your life and thereby coming to terms with the end of life. If you are able to look back and accept the course of events, the choices made your life as you live it as being necessary, then you needn't fear it. Although most of you are not yet at this point in life, perhaps you can still sympathize by considering your life up to now.
Pasa la juca si no le vuela con esa. Y la cosa suena ra. Y la cosa suena ra. Scooby-Doo, pa, pa. Y el pum pum